Hey everyone, Adam here, and because I fucking love counting, today we're going to do another top 5 list. Now, before you get too excited, you should know that this list isn't all sunshine and rainbows. In fact, it's a little depressing. Because video games are super expensive, sometimes a promising game gets radically changed to something that's less risky or canned altogether. Both can result in frustrated fans, but I'd venture to say that the worst fate a game can see is to get lost in that dreaded dark abyss we call development limbo. There are literally dozens, if not hundreds, of promising horror games that have been announced only to never see the light of day. This list only touches on 5 that were particularly upsetting to me. First up, we have Redwood Falls. This game was announced back in 2006 by Kuju Entertainment, a studio that had a hand in bringing us Silent Hill Downpour. Instead of a gameplay-free CG or live-action teaser, we were gifted with 6 glorious minutes of in-game footage. I'm not sure what I like best, the eerie atmosphere, twisted monsters, or the fact that when you blast a monster in its stupid ugly face with a shotgun, you actually see the damage in real time. Next up is something some gamers refer to as Resident Evil 3.5. Much like Resident Evil 1.5, which was supposed to be Resident Evil 2 before Shinji Mikami decided to completely change the direction the series would take, this prototype was to become the universally beloved action horror classic Resident Evil 4. The original plan for the game, one of 4 actually, was to take the series in a direction geared more towards supernatural horror. I'm not going to complain about the game we ended up getting because it's one of my all-time favorites, but this concept is intriguing nonetheless. Number 3 is actually the only game on this list that still stands a small, okay, more like infinitesimal, chance of seeing a release. It's an action horror game, the first of a planned trilogy that's inspired by the works of H.P. Lovecraft, and it was birthed from the mind of one of my all-time favorite directors. I'm of course talking about Guillermo del Toro's Insane. It was announced back in 2010 with THQ serving as publisher. Unfortunately, THQ went belly up, Volition was placed in the confident hands of Dead Island publisher Deep Silver, and the rights eventually reverted back to Del Toro. There's an extremely small chance that this game could still happen, but I'm not holding my breath. The 4th game on this list is a long-dead project called Campfire. It was in development way back in 2003 at the now defunct Swedish developer Daydream Software, a studio that made a few games you probably haven't heard of. Campfire would have placed us in the boots of a serial killer who stalks unsuspecting tourists and the occasional gaggle of horny teenagers in the woods. Between this and Until Dawn, a similarly themed horror game that's also seen some development woes, you would think that there's some sort of curse on the teen slasher subgenre. Number 5 is Asylum, a horror-themed first-person shooter that takes place in a, you guessed it, an asylum. Not to be confused with Senscape's horror-adventure game of the same name, this asylum would have followed a contestant in a TV game show that quickly turns into a living nightmare. Congrats, you've made it to the end. This is the part where you give this video a like if you actually enjoyed it. You can let me know how right or wrong I was in the comments, and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, unlike every game on this list, please don't die.